Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by CoolStuffing.com, CardHoarder.com, Alter Sleeves, as well as Twitch subscribers and Patreon supporters just like yourself. I'm Evan Irwin. We get started each week by saying hello to my co-host, Ruben Bressler.
Hi everybody.
Hey you.
We're hosting for two.
Hosting for two.
That's
thinking
right.
about Miss Nerd Girl. She's over in Europe right now and has had a whole myriad of things happening that I'm sure she would be happy to tell us about.
Wonderful adventures.
So many adventures. Well, that's it. If you missed our pre-show, subscribers to this channel get access to our NSFW version early, as well as our patrons at $5 or higher. And we kick it off with our first pick in our giveaway. Get your chance at $50 worth of anything at CoolStuffing.com by typing !raffle in the chat. But subscribe first to get 2 chances to win and support your favorite streamer with your suggestions at the end of the show to see who we rate tonight. That is thanks, of course, to our sponsor, CoolStuffing.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day. And for those wonderful podcast listeners, we do give these away, I promise. You just don't hear them. Do note there is a September going on right now, 25% off for 2 more days. So if y'all want to get in on that, add the subs, throw the subs, gift the subs, make the hype trains. We would really appreciate that. And
that's right.
That would be really great. We'd like that a lot. That said, we are going to start this week. I guess at the top, there is a whole bunch that they unveiled this week. At all of the announcements for their monthly announcement stream. Now, this announcement stream also announced the announcement that on October 4th, there's going to be another Magic 30 stream that's going to announce more stuff.
Okay.
And it's apparently a pre-recorded affair, so that should be pretty cool.
Fun.
It comes out 9 a.m. Eastern on October 4th, so that's a thing. And maybe it has more stuff in it. I don't know. There's plenty to talk about.
The pre-recorded ones have been fun. Announcing, like, for example, the one I'm thinking of is the Crimson Vow one, where they had Deborah Ann Wall and Becca Scott walking around a Gothic courtyard talking about the set that was coming out. Like, those adventures, those have been pretty fun. Those have been pretty cool. And I am cautiously optimistic that they have heard the consternation of the community over the lack of knowledge of what Magic 30 is, despite all of them saying it's going to be great. It would be nice to know what is going to be great about it. And more knowledge of that is going to be lovely.
Absolutely. So, I guess we'll start here at the top. There's a few things before we get to the juiciest of the new reveals. First of all, Alchemy Dominaria previews are coming. They are making more Alchemy. There was a wonderfully snarky reply from the MTG Arena account where someone was like, "Can you tell me what your tag is for Alchemy cards so I can put it in my ignore filter or whatever?" And so they said, "Oh, sure, follow us for more Alchemy facts," and link to click here to unsubscribe, and it was a link to show you how to unfollow somebody on Twitter. But Alchemy,
very good.
I think Alchemy, look, unpopular opinion, I like Alchemy. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. Sure. I think the 6-sided cards were a hot mess and was not a good idea. But overall, something cool and digital only that provides some spice and keeps things interesting. I'll take it. I'm happy with that. I don't have it right here on the screen, but they did reveal one card, which is a blue mythic, a 3-mana 2/3 flyer that when it attacks, you scry 1. But also when it enters the battlefield, you shuffle the power 9 into your deck.
This is called the Oracle of the Alpha.
Yeah.
Is a 2/3 bird wizard for 3 mana with flying. And it refers, all caps, capital P, capital N, conjure the power 9 into your library, then shuffle. And whenever it attacks, you scry 1, which is an absolutely delightful design. A design that, according to Robert Schuster, was originally a Spellslinger's card. Nice. Which is pretty cool to see it sort of transported into original recipe Magic.
And, Alchemy not only having the ability to add new cards, but also tweak and fix and ideally pump older cards. The fact that they made Venture into the Dungeon really awesome there for a little while was great before it for it left standard, and it's still available to be powered up in historic, which is also great.
Yeah.
I'll take it. And again, shuffling the Power 9 in your deck sounds neat. Probably going to do absolutely nothing. You're basically shuffled 5 lands and a couple spells you're probably not going to see. Yeah. But damn, does it feel good to draw Ancestral or play a Time Walk or Time Twister. Like, it's just, find that Time Twister with your shouldered out. Let's go. I mean, if we find Time Twister and then draw into several Moxen to be able to cast a bunch of other spells, like, that's kind of cool. That's just going to feel good. That's just rad, right? I mean, Micromancer to go find Ancestral Recall. Like, let's do this. Let's make. I like that, because if you don't run any other 1-drops,
right? So if we alpha and Micromancer, this is our new deck.
That's guaranteed Ancestral Recall on turn 4. I'll take it. Either way, I think that's cool. Alchemy stuff is coming, and it'll be out next Thursday for the client, and I'm excited to see what they have there. But certainly, let's start here at the Pioneer Challenger decks. Remember those things? Mm-hmm. Those are coming on November 4th. And this is a complete 60-card deck with a 15-card sideboard. This came out years and years ago at this point, with the idea that you buy it, you shuffle it, and you go, and you have an actual fully featured deck. Well, is it Phoenix? The thing that's supposed to put the Phoenixes in the graveyard, supposed to have 4, wait a minute, 2 Arclight Phoenixes in the deck. And 2 Thing in the Ice and Awoken Horror.
Yeah. We've by we, I mean you, have specifically been like, why would you give us 2 Jadelight Rangers? They've 2 Jadelight Rangered us again.
They 2 Jadelight Rangered again.
With 2 Arclight Phoenix, which is wild. Like, we did this already. I don't need you to do this to me again.
They have made challenger decks in the past, and certainly the first ones, when they always go too far, of like half rares, 4 mythics, just like the full boat of the good stuff. And the idea that you get to yank out the Crackling Drakes and just put in the other 2 Arclight Phoenixes and Thing on the Ice. There's your deck. No, you cannot play this deck unless you play its exact 75, because it has expressive iteration in it, and that card is banned. So just like the old Stoneforge pre-con days, you can play with it, but only the exact 75. So if you were to buy another copy and change it, you have to take those out.
Well, the good news is that the other 3 decks are pretty... I'm looking at them. I don't see how you optimize it further. Like, these are pretty stock lists for Dimir Control, Gruul Stompy, and Orzhov Humans. So they only 2 Arclight Phoenix us. It's not like they, shorted us on Censor, or they shorted us on Glorybringer or something.
Right. I mean, 1 Mystical Dispute is kind of a thing. The fact they give you 1 shock land, it looks like, per deck is also a thing.
1 shock land per deck is just going to be what we have. Like, those are $20 bills at least a piece. So I'm not totally broken up about them not giving us a bunch of those, but they've given us a bunch of pain lands and a bunch of fast lands in these as well. So
and temples, which is also cool and nice. The Gruul Stompy deck has 2 copies of Chandra, 2 Questing Beasts, as well as 4 Glorybringer. 4
but those are 2 and 2. Like, those are usually split 2 and 2 or 3 and 3 and 1 pretty regularly anyway. So I'm not super broken up about the Gruul Stompy.
And the ones they can give you, the pain lands they do that are currently out, again, for like that 1 Stomping Ground or whatever. And the Orzhov Humans list is neat. You got your 1 Godless Shrine, but also has 2 Mutavault, which is hot fire and a good reason to buy 2 of them. However, they do give you the full boat on pretty much all the humans that they're featuring in the deck, which is nice. So that's really rad.
They did a pretty good job with these. Like, I get the 2 Arclight Phoenix is frustrating, but if that's our complaint, I'm okay with it.
That's the worst of it. I think we'll be okay. So moving here to the first look at the Brothers War. This is the epic retelling of the most consequential event in the multiverse, because, hey, let's go back and check it out, because it was awesome. And it's already turned out to be pretty freaking cool, which is another thing. So this is the set symbol right here. And check out the commander symbol right here. This, I think, is excellent. I don't know who it was. God bless them. But somebody, I hope, said, hey, we can't just keep making these weird shields forever. Like, we've got to somehow tie these things together in a way that can work from now until 50 sets from now, and making a shield and just shrink the thing and shrink the set symbol and put it in the middle. Awesome. Fantastic. Yeah. You did it. You cracked the code. Use that forever so that we don't have to try to memorize or look at 37 different shields, which is great. But that said, going through the different products here, of course, as we know, Jumpstart, just going to say, there is a official Jumpstart release or something sort of by itself, by its lonesome, coming up over the next year. But the ones that coincide with the set releases themselves, these are intro deck products. These replaced the intro decks, and now they play like them. They are not powered up. They are not full of value. They are not going for a whole lot of money, and I don't expect this one to either. A thing.
That's fine.
Weirdly, I didn't sort of see that coming per se, but I can also understand, again, this is just one of the best products for a store to have, period.
Yeah, agreed.
How do I play limited Magic? Buy 2 of these, shuffle them together, you're good to go.
And they can coincide together to make you feel like, I'm playing this Jumpstart event, but it's got some Urza themed stuff in it. So now I want to go play Brothers War, and then there's more Urza stuff in the Jumpstart stuff. You can bring the waves to crash together to make it one bigger wave. I always like those better. But the intro decks were never going to drive the bus. They were never going to be the most exciting thing possible. So I'm not terribly broken up with an individual Jumpstart release either.
I think the real barometer is not so much, the understanding that the Jumpstart, products are just not as exciting. The idea is that the next time they do a standalone Jumpstart, this is Jumpstart for real or whatever, that product is awesome. And that product does a lot of cool things. There's more Allosaurus riders or Allosaurus,
Shepherd.
Yeah, Shepherd, that does a million things.
Yeah, Jumpstart is a home run idea. The fact that it came out during COVID is a huge problem and blow, because it's the most creative, coolest thing that Wizards has come out with set design wise in my time playing Magic, as far as I'm concerned. It's as revolutionary as Booster Draft, in my opinion.
I would argue, it's as legendary as Commander. It takes a format in an entire different way. It's a totally different way to play Magic, but it's also something to build products around, and you can get excited about opening them to find good money in them.
Right.
But then it's also an intro deck product. So
right. So I'm still excited for them, but I'd be more excited for them if there was further tie-in.
Yeah. So there's lots of dates here on the screen if you want to check out when things are starting and stopping. They do note here they're going to show off, the lands. I'm not saying that full art lands are not cool, but man, have we passed the full art lands are special. That's long gone. That's long in the rear view. That's the thing.
Feels a little weird for us to have full art lands on Dominaria, in my opinion, but I get why they wanted it here, because we've got the mech lands. We've got the remnants of the Yesterday War happening here, scenes from Scythe sort of ringing in my mind. And they're very cool. They're very good looking, and they certainly are much better looking in full art splendor when you're trying to get this big, expansive scene. It still feels weird to have them on Dominaria.
Which is fine. I think this robot one, the island robot one, I think is really rad. And the plains one where you look up into a giganto mech into the sky is fantastic. And that's cool. Just a thing. Now, they showed us a few previews, and they gave us some pretty good ones. In fact, a returning mechanic that I don't think anyone saw coming. I read a lot of rumor forum things. I put, ears to the ground all the time. And at no point had someone said, Evan, they're putting meld in this set. You're like, what? Really? Y'all even remember what that does? All right. Well, first of all, let's talk about 2 different cards, because one is a mythic and one's a rare, but they'll combine together, their powers combine together to be awesome. Urza Lord Protector is a blue-white and generic mana for a 2/4 mythic legendary human artificer. Artifact, instant, and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 generic mana less to cast, and for 7 generic mana, just so happens to be what the Urza Lands make. If you both own and control Urza Lord Protector and an artifact named the Might Stone and the Weak Stone, exile them, then meld them into Urza Planeswalker, activate only as a sorcery. Ruben, tell us what the Might Stone and the Weak Stone do.
So the Might Stone and Weak Stone is a legendary artifact Power Stone. It counts as a Power Stone for your Power Stones Matter cards, which I think there's only one. But it is one of them. And it's a 5-mana legendary artifact that says when it enters the battlefield, choose one, draw 2 cards, or target creature gets -5/-5 till end of turn. It also has the activated ability, tap, add Wingding to generic mana, or to colorless mana, not generic. This mana can't be this mana can't be spent to cast non-artifact spells. So you either have to cast artifacts with it or activate abilities with it. And that allows you to play Urza Lord Artificer on turn 3, your 2/4, that makes your artifacts, instants, and sorceries cost a colorless less. Then you get your Might Stone, which costs 5, but costs 1 less to be 4, so your Urza makes it a turn 4 play.
Right.
Then you get to untap the next turn, play your 5th land, and tap the Might Stone and the Weak Stone for 2 generic for 7 for your Urza Lord Protector. So all of the numbers come together here to go turn 3, turn 4, turn 5.
Because on turn 5, you'll flip this freaking thing. You'll have put in 2 cards. You'll have put in 15 mana, some of it reduced, into Urza, Planeswalker, melded together. The legendary Planeswalker Urza has 7 loyalty to start, and once during each of your turns, you may activate an additional loyalty ability of Urza Planeswalker. You can activate the same one twice. For +2, artifact, instant, and sorcery spells you cast this turn cost 2 generic less to cast, and you gain 2 life. +1, draw 2 cards, then discard a card. 0, create 2 1/1 colorless soldier artifact creature tokens. -3, exile target non-land permanent. And -10, artifacts and planeswalkers you control gain indestructible until end of turn. Destroy all non-land permanents. Now, note that it makes soldiers, and soldiers are a definite theme that we'll be talking about. It can exile 2 things immediately, but it cannot ultimate immediately. But its ultimate also gives a very strong tie-in to Urza's, the legendary sword, the Ruinous Blast. Thank you so much.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, also keep in mind, this will be twice as big as everything else on the battlefield when you meld it. So it'll be cinematic when you do this thing.
Oh man, the animation better be sick.
It's very cool. The animation is going to be insane. I mean, he's got the heterochromia eyes happening. It's a lot. This is a lot to take in. It's a 5 ability planeswalker that you've dumped 15 mana into. You're going to deserve to flip it when you do.
Yeah, this is the big payoff. Like, you should be doing epic, powerful crap if you spent all that time and energy to get that going. The fact that, like, Urza Lord Protector, it has 4 toughness and not 3, that's huge. It can't be cut down, for example. It's going to be difficult to get rid of you'll need a -4/-4. The Might Stone and Weak Stone just so happened to kill Sheoldred right on sight, which is another big deal at this point. And let's go flipping into giant scary stuff. Now, other stuff that they mentioned was that there's going to be Brothers War Commander decks, and who better to be the commanders than Mishra and Urza. Another cool thing, which is unreal, is that they are going to make every Magic card in these decks a retro frame treatment. That includes old spells that had never been in a retro frame before, which we'll get to, but holy shnikes, this is dope. Mishra Eminent 1 is the face card for the Mishra deck. It's Grixis mana, red, black, blue, I guess Obscura mana these days. Or that's not Obscura, that's Maestros. Thank you. Maestros mana. Black, red, blue, 2 generic mana. So 5 total for a 5/4 mythic legendary human artificer. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create a token that's a copy of target non-creature artifact you control, except its name is Mishra's War Form, and it's a 4/4 construct artifact creature in addition to its other types. It gains haste on a turn, sacrifice at the beginning of the next end step. Let's go. Let's make a war form, dude. Let's just war form it.
So that allows you to copy a non-creature artifact and make it a creature. That's very powerful. I mean, we get to copy our, Immortal Sons. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff that we can do with that. And Mishra historically was the one who would duplicate, right? The original Mishra allowed you to sort of search your library for a copy of artifacts that you already had. This does something similar, but is good in Commander, which is now, something you want your Legends to be able to do. So really good card.
So basically, if you have a Mindslaver out, the game just locked. Like you just instantly win. You make a Mindslaver. Thanks. Urza Chief Artificer is the Urza front-facing card, the legend for the set for the Commander deck. It's a black, white, and blue and 3 generic mana for a 4/5 with affinity for artifact creatures, costing 1 generic less to cast for each artifact creature you control. Artifact creatures you control have menace. At the beginning of your end step, you make a 0/0 colorless construct artifact creature token with, quote, this creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control. This is a very Urza-centric ability that makes 0/0 constructs. So did Karn. Now, so does Urza. And that's awesome. And I'll take it.
As did 4 mana Urza from Modern Masters.
Right.
Modern Masters. This is pretty easy to get on turn 3. You just play a Signal Pest and an Ornithopter and Bob's your uncle, and you're ready to roll. So I would be very excited to see the constructed possibilities for this card.
Urza's from Modern Horizons.
That's the one.
Yeah, that was the ticket. Now look, that means check out these sick older cards newer cards in the older frame. That Soul Ring, the Command Tower, the Preordained, Baleful Strix is just Skull Clamp is incredible. The Reliquary Tower, like all of this stuff is just going to be cash money dollars. Yeah. Like they've made these Commander decks better than their average Commander deck, I think, with this alone. Yeah.
I think it's pretty obvious that you're leaning into your history and your nostalgia when you're going to the Brothers War, and this is a home run.
Absolutely. So collector boosters can have extended art versions, which are awesome, and all that good stuff. The promos they've talked about before, which is if you go to the pre-release event, you may receive one of the 4 promos that celebrate, the first 4 years or so almost of the existence of the game. But they also mentioned, hey, you get a buy box promo of Mishras Foundry. This card is sick. I'm ready for a man land back in standard. Mishras Foundry is a rare land that taps to add a colorless mana, the actual Wingding, 2 generic mana : it becomes a 2/2 assembly - worker artifact creature until end of turn. It's still a land. And for 1 generic mana tap : target attacking assembly worker gets +2/+2 until end of turn. I love it.
So Mishras Factory was the original of these sort of Mishras Lands, and it was able to pump assembly workers. Very good on defense. It was very difficult to attack into. This is a much more aggressive version, which makes it much better to attack with. So if you've got 2 Mishras Foundries in play, they're attacking as 4/4s, which is pretty great.
Yeah, I mean, one's going to pump the other, right? So, you'll attack with a 4/4.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
And
that's great. That's a good rate.
No, that's a terrific rate. I'll pay an extra generic mana so I can have this sweet ability on top of it. And again, this is also, it's a Mishra's land. We're going through the Brothers War. That's also fantastic. Just hitting those notes, which are all terrific. And of course, there's extended art versions and stuff, and the normal and extended art versions. Queen Kayla bin Krug. This girl is sweet. A red, white, and generic mana for a 2/3 legendary human noble. 4 generic mana, tap, discard all the cards in your hand, then draw that many cards. You may choose an artifact or creature card with mana value 1 you discarded this way, then do the same for artifact or creature cards with mana values 2 and 3. Return those cards to the battlefield. Activate only as a sorcery.
Very cool card. Krug, for those of you who didn't play during antiquities, was
Krug, right?
Yeah, Amulet of Krug. I think there was a Krug engine or something like that. There's a couple of things that take place in Krug. Krug is the remnants or the ruins of Krug are where Yavimaya now is. And it was the capital of Yosha. like Yoshin Soldier and the Yoshin, the new enchantment that's something of Yosha.
Yosha War or something.
The Yoshin War, exactly. And well, spoiler alert, there's a war coming, and the city didn't do great during the war, as it was sacked by dragon engines eventually. So, but for now, the queen reigns supreme. And
Traxos Scourge of Krug was in Dominaria, and that was the last time it was referred to by name, best I can tell anyway. So this card is super dope, and I love it.
It's a very cool card, very cool design.
Now, as was oft rumored, and honestly, not the greatest secret being kept in 2022 about Magic cards, that there would be a Mystical Archive-like bonus sheet of artifacts in the set. Much like Mystical Archive, you couldn't play them in Standard, but they do show up. They'll now show up in Historic. There'll be regular, I think, Uncommons, Rares, and Mythics that you can get alpha off of this sheet. And they gave you some examples here, like Ivory Tower and Jalem Tome, which is sweet. They kept going with Wormcoil Engine. Woo! And Lodestone Golem, which this is actually the bonus card they did not show on the stream. And so Lodestone Golem being in Historic is dope, and Wormcoil Engine is, very exciting.
Yeah. These are going to be sought after. Even the weird uncommons, even the stuff like Ivory Tower and Jalem Tome, particularly the schematic art versions, are going to be highly sought after by collectors.
Absolutely. So there's still some rumored ones out there. We haven't got confirmation, but feel free to dig around the internet if you'd like to check those out. Now, the Retro Frame Artifact Classics feature their own set symbol and can be found in draft set and collector boosters. Now, that said, there are going to be schematic versions of these. The special set of Retro Frame Artifacts that echo a schematic one would use to build one of their own, which is cool. I love this schematic stuff. I think it's super rad. You have how would it look like to try to build a Lodestone Golem and what is involved in the Wormcoil Engine and all that stuff. I think that's brilliant. Well, they're not done. So for the first time in a Magic booster product, they're introducing serialized versions of cards that will show how many exist and which one you have. For example, they're printing 500 of each serialized retro schematic, which feature what they're calling double rainbow foiling. It's probably taken from Pokemon, quite frankly.
Sure.
But whatever. In the Brothers War collector boosters. So each one will be numbered with their number out of 500, and they'll only be available in collector boosters. Non-serialized schematic artwork versions will be available too. Those, I think, show up in all the products. But in those collector boosters, you could get 420 out of 500 Wormcoil Engine.
69 and 420 and one are going to be the ones that you want the most.
And 007. Because that's...
Ooh.
So you
is
got
007, so it's going to be printed as 007 and not just 7?
Correct. The one they showed as an example was, showed like the number, if I recall.
All right.
So 007 would be awesome. Even if it's just 7, I still think it's going to be rad. But if they put 00, it's going to be great. So either way, I think that's cool. This is, a gimmick to get people excited, a gimmick to buy collector boosters. I'll take it.
Well, there was they sort of did a test balloon of this in the secret lairs, right? Where we got
Viscera Seers were serialized.
That were numbered. And those got everybody in a tizzy. And I think that Wizards was like, well, everyone seemed to like those, so full steam ahead. And yeah, great. I think that's definitely going to make collectors super happy. So.
I mean, I appreciate the creativity essentially that they have in that, Hitotsugu had the different foiling colors and whatever, and those were more and more rare. They kind of dipped their toe in a little bit. It doesn't break Magic. People didn't freak out or riot.
Yeah.
The number 69 Viscera Seer sold for $6,900, I'm told.
Great.
Nice. But ultimately make things for collectors so collectors can go nuts. Doesn't really change our sort of look and feel of the product and how it works. And, putting the Legends cards in the collector boosters for Dominaria was neat. Having these as an extra bonus on top of already, if you got the foil schematic version, they'd be worth a ton of money. Well, there's one on top of that one that makes it that much more exciting. Go. So that is super rad, and we'll find out more on October 27th, I believe, when they start the reveals for more of the cards. And also note, this is where they're starting to return to local game stores, have pre-releases first, not the digital clients, which will be very cool. Let's see here. So one of the things they did, they showed off a few cards, and we've talked about some of them, but I definitely got to cover the Mythic Surge Engine, because when they first showed us this card on the stream, it was not shown the rarity. And I was like, oh, it's kind of cool. Like, that's maybe a really powerful uncommon, or like a really cool rare, because they've done that recently. No. This is Mythic. 2 generic mana for a 3/2 Mythic artifact creature construct with Defender. For 1 blue, it loses Defender and gains it cannot be blocked. For a blue and 2 generic mana, it becomes blue and has base power and toughness 5/4. Activate if it doesn't have Defender. For 2 blue and 4 generic mana, draw 3 cards. Activate only if Surge Engine is blue and only once. Yeah. And so this is another example of a Figure of Destiny type creature that kind of you pump your mana in, you get a bunch of cool stuff out of it. You can only use the last ability once. But again, if we're in Mythic territory, I bet this thing is bananas.
Yeah. These cards where you can invest variable amounts of mana into them are always good. I feel like they've always been good. Maybe not the level up mechanic per se when they tried to put it on commons, but when it's been on its own, Evolved Sleeper, Figure of Destiny, Student of Warfare, First of the Warden Tree,
the Spirit one they had recently, the one with the pump of snow mana,
the Ascendant Spirit,
Ascendant Spirit, right?
These are great, and we got a blue themed artifact one that draws cards. What's not to love?
It's rad, and I think this thing is priced to move. Yep. They're like, hey, you want to do something on turn 2? Cool. This will stop their Tenacious Underdog at the very, very least. And if they don't do anything, you just start pumping mana into it and start crushing their world. Yeah. And 8 mana, we'll see, this will be 10 mana? You get to draw 3 cards out of nowhere. I mean, that's fine too.
Yeah, and you can also just keep that mana up. Like, all of these, the big thing about these as opposed to level up is that you can do them at instant speed. So I've got mana laying around at the end of the turn. Great. My Siege Engine or my Surge Engine can use my random leftover mana.
Exactly. So, and as Pharmacist Judge notes in the chat here, an unblockable 5/4 is an unblockable 5/4.
That's a fast clock. That's 4 turns.
It will kill you, and quickly. Now, I love me a Savannah Lion. You just don't know. It was one of my favorite creatures when I first started playing. I love it to death. And now we get Savannah Lions that do a bunch of cool stuff, like Recruitment Officer. And this to me just points to not only being there rumors out in the world of what could be, but the fact that there is a Soldier Lord in Dominaria United. And this is a 1-drop human soldier that does awesome things. It's a 1-drop 2/1. Recruitment Officer is an uncommon human soldier, but it has a really cool ability for a white and 3 generic mana : That means as much as you want to do this, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card with mana value 3 or less from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom in a random order. So it finds more copies of itself. It finds copies of the Lord. It finds copies of whatever silly 3-drop they're going to put into the soldier deck. Yeah. I think this card is going to be fantastic.
It also finds Walking Ballista if you have infinite mana.
There you go.
I mean, it's a 2 mana 2/1.
It's a human.
It's a human. It's a soldier. This thing's going to be good. This
card's going to be very, very strong. And I will take it. So that said, we'll go back to us here a little bit, and we're going to move out of our first pick here to Gather the Townsfolk. That's where we talk about community issues, community things from throughout the week. Thanks to our sponsor, cardhoarder.com, offering the best inventory prices and delivery of cards for Magic Online. Now, this week we can follow up so happily, for Magic 30 and their cosplay prizes. Now, they were, I think the children would describe it as dragged online because there was a $200 Joanne Fabric gift card at the top of the mountain. If you spent your God knows how many hundreds to thousands of dollars, or hundreds and or thousands of dollars to get yourself there and make your costume, well, they bumped them prizes. And so first place, you still get the gift card. I mean, let's not take that away. But you also get $3,000 in cash, which is awesome. excuse me, plus the 2 3-day VIP badges, and the hotel room to be used at the event. And then second place gets $1,750 in cash, and 3 judges, beyond that, 3 judges awards will be given out. Each category winner wins $1,000, $100 fabric gift card, and a 3-day badge, as well as a hotel room. So
yeah,
that's fantastic. Good job. Way to bump those prizes up.
This signals to me that they just posted something early before they got everything approved. Like, maybe. I assume, like, I can't imagine these numbers. Like, this is a scale. This is a, what's the word? It's a... Well, the way I think I put it... significantly bigger than what they were.
Well, I think the way I put it was twofold. One was, if this was always the goal where you wanted to be with prizes or whatever, you should have not posted anything until you included this.
Yeah.
You know,
I think it was a mistake. It was probably a mistake.
Right. So if it was, they lowballed the prizes and no one kind of caught it or made a big deal out of it, it was certainly
Order
caught
of magnitude.
And made attention.
Thank you, Maverick Girl. That's what I was looking for.
Right. And so, but again, who knows? But like all's well that ends well. So like, I'm not too mad about it either way.
Yeah.
I did my little bit that I could to be like, this is embarrassing. Yeah. Can we fix this? And
if they got shamed into it, good. If they made a mistake, that sucks for them, but also good. Like,
I'll take it. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
So one of the fun things that they are apparently doing at the Hasbro Pulse event, the Hasbro Pulse Con 2022, is they are going to have a secret lair available October 1st through November 14th at the show, I believe, as well. They're not super clear, I think, as to what this means per se.
Okay.
We have apparently they're going to do some cuteness. They're talking about cuteness.
Great.
And pre-orders start October 1st through November 14th. Yet again, another secret lair. And it's probably going to be Chibi Planeswalkers 2.0, right?
Great. Perfect. I mean, I'm on board. It's cute. They're cute. Look how cute that ad is.
It's adorable. That's what it is. It's absolutely adorable. So I will definitely take it. An unfortunate, sad announcement. Alison Lührs has left Wizard of the Coast after 9 years. That's a heck of a long time and an incredible, it's amazing sort of being on the sidelines and sort of talking about what the company does and being able to watch things happen. I honest to God get to see people's like careers, go from X to Y to Z. And it's been really incredible to see Alison's huge impact on the game, like to the point where like it impacted to the point where they like changed the way that things were attributed on the website because it got to be like her star was getting crazy huge because she was doing an incredible job.
Mm-hmm.
So congratulations to her. She's going to be doing something new soon, she notes, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah, some of Magic Story's most iconic short fiction was written by Alison Lührs, and she was also co-narrative lead for Amonkhet Block, I believe, and was the lead writer for Ixalan.
Man, that Jace story.
The Jace story, the way that it all came together. Like, the set wasn't spectacular, but I still have the story to the race to the top of the pyramid just emblazoned in my mind. It's so iconic of like all of these forces coming together and the way that she told it. Ultimately coming together in, I think it was either a 2 or 3 part story about all of like the vampire conquistadors and the merfolk. And then there was like a public vote, I think, of who would win, which was kind of cool. And just like extremely creative, good stuff. And she's extremely talented. And I wish her nothing but the best going forward.
Like, for someone who can make Jace Beleren likable. Now, I think these days, particularly if you've only came into the game the last 4 or 5 years, you'd be like, what's wrong with Jace? I don't get it. Trust me, Jace was not a super cool dude at first. Planeswalkers began with, who is your Mickey Mouse of the brand, and they didn't really have one. So this, okay, Jace is, what every player wants to be. Well, sort of like the quiet, brooding guy didn't really come across that well. And the Vraska Jace story just turned all of it on its head. And to be able to do that is quite a feat. So high five there.
Before we move out of Gather the Townsfolk, unless we were going to talk about it in Desperate Ravings, I wanted to talk about Leaving a Legacy.
Sure. Let's go ahead and move into Desperate Ravings, where we talk a little bit about some wilder topics that may have us up in arms about something or other. That said, that's thanks to our altar sleeves. Check out our altar sleeves. Support the show by using the code MAGICMICS at checkout for 5% off anything in the store, including a set of exclusive sleeves featuring the Magic Mics crew at altarsleeves.com/magicmics. The URL is on your screen right now. But that said, Ruben, tell me about this Leaving a Legacy thing.
Yeah, so Magic Mics has been on the air for 7.5 years at this point, right? 6.5, 7.5. There's not a ton of podcasts older than ours, but one of them is Leaving a Legacy with Patrick and Jerry. And they've decided to wrap up the podcast after 8 years. They are going to release another month's worth of episodes, it looks like. And they're going to have a Leaving a Legacy Open available at...
Oh, that's rad.
This is in Massachusetts, it looks like, where there's going to be a Leaving a Legacy Open on Saturday, October 8th. So if you are able to make it out to the Leaving a Legacy Open, that would be a great farewell for them. Pre-registration for that event is open already. Yeah, I mean, I've been familiar with Leaving a Legacy since it started. Their stickers, I've had many Leaving a Legacy stickers on many of my bags over the years. And congratulations on 8 years to Patrick and Jerry.
Yeah, very nice. I mean, as we know, it is no small feat to keep showing up week after week to talk about different stuff and make it happen. And, congratulations to them. And for those who can make it, I mean, that sounds like a heck of a event. Legacy in the Northeast U.S. is always hopping and always really impressive. And the players there are great. So congrats to them. All right. So one of the last things here for Desperate Ravings was something that Sam from Mystic Studies fame had noted. He says, I think DMU Limited ultimately boils down to combat tricks. His experiences have been that tricks create such tremendous blowouts, which lead to feel bad losses in the sense that game decisions are irrelevant. Doesn't matter how I block, I'll lose to XYZ trick. This has ripple effects in the draft, which probably makes drafting much richer and widens the data between mediocre players, good players, and great players. A very good trade of draft, they notes. But he says, I'm not sure if the quality/quantity of tricks are an asset or a liability in this format, but I don't want to play anymore because of them. And it could just be him. And, now that I think the sun has kind of rose and set a lot for me on Dominaria United Limited, like I might play a little bit more. I might do a draft here and there or whatever, but largely I'm more or less done with Dominaria Limited personally.
Sure.
And I enjoyed myself. I really I found myself pulled to the black-white decks basically over and over, which had to do with a lot of token creation and attrition and kind of grinding people out and so on and so forth. So that was kind of cool. But I also noted, as we talked about in the pre-show, in that, Dominaria, the OG Dominaria, is an all-timer. Like, in my opinion at this point, the number one best limited format in terms of the way it was set up and feels and drafts and so on. And I don't think Dominaria United is there. I mean, I don't think it's terrible. I certainly don't think it's even in the bottom half of draftable sets.
Yeah,
but
it's good.
But, I liked Kamigawa more, for example, and in a way that didn't feel like Dominaria United has a lot of words on cards, and sometimes they don't always feel necessary.
Yeah. I enjoyed the limited format. I think it was a solid 8. Good. I think it was I was very pleased with it, and I was very pleased to play it for a long time. My thoughts on the format evolved greatly. I was not disappointed to play most of the archetypes that were available. From Domain to the black-white deck that you were referring to any number of aggressive white or controlling blue and black-based decks. I enjoyed it quite a bit. This take on combat tricks, though, I'm not sure I agree with. I have not felt like I've been blown out by combat tricks any more or less than normal. Looking through the list of what I consider to be a combat trick, I'm looking at Take Up the Shield, which was a white, put a +1/+1 counter on a creature. It gains lifelink and indestructible till the end of the turn.
That was a big one. Yeah.
Shore Up, which is a blue 1 mana instant that gives a creature +1/+1 and gains hexproof. Untap it till end of turn.
Yep.
I'll include Timely Interference here. This was target creature gets -1/-0 till end of turn. If it was kicked, the creature blocks. If able, draw a card. Battle Rage Blessing, which is target creature gains death touch and indestructible till end of turn. Furious Bellow, target creature gets +3/+0 and gains first strike. Scry 1.
That was a big one. I blew out some people.
That's a huge blowout, but like we've seen that card before. That's not a new thing.
Right, that's a sure strike with some bonus on it.
I mean, I'm not seeing it. Like Gaia's Might obviously makes something enormous, but I'm not seeing anything here where I'm like, oh yeah, every time my opponent played Strength of the Coalition, I lost the game. That's probably the biggest blowout pump spell or combat trick in the set, because it can also pump your whole team. But I'm not seeing it. I don't think that this set was particularly combat trick centric.
I understand that to make Domain work, it ended up being a better 3-color draft set than Streets of New Capenna.
Sure.
Which I think is really weird, quite frankly, in terms of like, what's your goal again? But it's better than the Streets. It's way better than that D&D Baldur's Gate alchemy thing that happened for a minute.
It's a good, listen, it's an 8.
It's
the
a
problem
fine
is
set.
It's only ever been compared to Dominaria, which is a 10. So, your follow-up album is still very good. Just isn't the best thing.
It's not the greatest, right? It's just a tribute. And there's nothing wrong with that either. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, I'm not sure if it sort of stops me from playing it per se, but I felt like it got to the point where the only thing I was doing was drafting kind of the same deck. And when I find myself in formats like that, I'm like, you know what? I feel like I've drafted the Domain decks and I've tried some of the other decks and I'm like, kind of done with it. So not there's anything wrong with that. And of course we do have a brand new limited environment to look forward to very, very soon. That said, we'll turn the corner to the finisher. That's our final segment. I don't have any cool graphics for that. We'll have them next time when Nerd Girl is with us.
Great.
If I can pull it up here properly, which of course I don't have it. Why would I? That would make sense and make me not look weird. Just a second. I'm filling time. That's what I'm doing.
This is vamping.
Vamping.
This is misdirection. This is what Penn does when Penn and Teller are performing.
Nice. All right, well, there you go. Well, we actually made it without adult supervision, no less. 1 week without MTG Nerd Girl is like a day without rain. So tell me, while MNG is overseas, what do you miss most about missing our third co-host, Ruben?
Well, I miss Nerd Girl's attention to detail, her professionalism, and her insight. But most of all, I miss having someone on the show whose opinion Wizards of the Coast cares about.
There for a minute. It's fine. Like, we've been on the air for 7 years, and this is the first time in the history of Magic Mike's where it's been just Ruben and Evan. And he's okay, but if there's one thing I miss about having MTG Nerd Girl, it's making sure that neither Ruben nor I go way off the deep end with our unhinged rants. We keep going.
Yeah, we need checks and balances in place.
No brakes on this train of craziness. Now, that said, that ends another live episode of Magic Mike's. Thanks for joining us here to discuss all things Magic. Thank you, Ruben.
Hey, thank you, buddy.
Yeah, buddy. And I'm going to move on here to our final slide. Check out them sweet graphics, bruh. Oh my goodness. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsors, CardHoarder.com, and Alter Sleeves, my co-host, MTG Nerd Girl, who will be here next week, I hope, and Ruben Bressler. You guys for watching and listening. I hope you support us at patreon.com/magicmics. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online on our Discord, twitch.tv at Magic Mics, on Twitter at Magic Mics Cast, our Magic Mics subreddit, and like the Magic Mics page on Facebook. Or join us here next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody.